Right, so we're going to talk about some summer planting, and we're going to just kick off with the feeds, which can be hugely confusing. Everyone knows tomato feed? Anyone know why we use tomato feed? But what are we feeding? Why are we using tomato feed as opposed to the Boost or the Grow More or anything else? Any ideas? No, I'm fine. I'm loud enough. So the reason we use tomato feed is, if anyone remembers school, the main ingredient in it is potassium. So it's a higher level of potassium in tomato feed, and potassium is what encourages fruiting in tomatoes or flowering in summer bedding. So with the higher potassium in it, it's ideal for if you want anything to fruit or flower, which is ideal for summer bedding. So if you did look on the back of it and you did happen to read all this small print, you'd see potassium and you'd see it's the higher percentage of what's in there. So when you're looking to feed plants, there's lots and lots of different ones, but the three big ones are nitrogen, which you'd be looking to feed mainly leaves with, and foliage. So like hedging or something like that, or some of your shrubs would be good for the nitrogen. Or phosphorus, which is generally good for the roots. So, and then the potassium, which would help encourage flowering. So that's the reason why we use tomato feed, is because it's going to encourage our petunias to flower or tomatoes to fruit. And then there's there's Boost, so there'd be general feed as well, liquid feed. So maybe you're kind of happy enough with the flowering, there's obviously potassium in that as well, and you want something maybe more all-purpose to boost your plants. And then we're looking at this one, which is liquid. Anyone know what ericaceous is? Or yeah, exactly. So there's 3 soil types. There would be neutral, which would be kind of like maybe rainwater kind of type thing. There'd be alkaline, which would be kind of like milk. Milk would be alkaline, and then there'd be acidic, which would be like vinegar or something like that. So basically, the vast majority of plants like neutral soil. In Kinsale, it's neutral, and so the reason why you'd be using the ericaceous is camellias are ericaceous, rhododendrons, azaleas, heathers, blueberries. So for them kind of specific plants, you'd be using the ericaceous feed because it'd be giving a little bit of acidity as well. And don't forget, when you get any of them plants, to get the appropriate compost that would be acidic to go with it. So has anyone ever had camellias that leaves are going a bit yellow? Yeah, they need feeding with ericaceous feed. And or rhododendrons if they're going yellow, heathers if they're going a bit yellow. That's kind of generally a sign they need a bit of a feed. And that will bring me on to this, which is granulated stuff. So it's a lot more stronger than the liquid, generally. So the liquid generally doesn't tend to be as strong as the granulated. You can also get granulated ericaceous, which would be better for your ericaceous plants. If they yeah, it's just granulated stuff, so just a small handful, and maybe try and kind of lightly get it into the soil a little bit. So the granulated stuff is stronger, so don't put it on too strong. If you put on loads and loads of it, you'll probably just burn the plant, especially if it's small. So you can kind of just go with the recommended dose. It's about a handful. The Grow More in particular is probably one of my favorites because it's all purpose. It's got 7% nitrogen, 7% phosphorus, and 7% potassium. So it's equal in all 3. So if you didn't know what to feed your plants with, you just go, I'll give it some Grow More. That'll most likely do the job. So hedging is good for Grow More, and shrubs, trees. It pretty much does kind of everything. But obviously, if you wanted your petunias or something to flower, you'd use the liquid tomato feed. You don't want to use anything too strong in your petunias. So the granulated stuff is for stronger, bigger, robust plants and shrubs. I also have this here. This is absolutely brilliant for doing container planting. So I'm going to do up a container at the end. And the reason why I like this so much as well is it's different to all the rest. It's slow release feed. So there's 6 months slow release feed in this. And if you go to any garden centre and you look in all the pots, you know, the perennial pots or the shrub pots, you'll see all these little colourful little balls. That's what it is. So anything that's going to be sitting in a container for ages, like your summer bedding is going to be sitting in there for months even, and or you might have pots outside your door, you know, there might be some bays in it or something. Always put the slow release feed in, because the compost is only going to the nutrients in the compost is only going to last for so long, and it definitely won't last 6 months. So putting that in with it is a big help. So any container I would use some of this. It says something like 20 grams for every hopefully that's recording, for every 10 litres of compost. I don't really measure it, I just put in a handful here and there. So for any container I'd be putting this in. I'd be using good compost, and I'd be using horticultural grit as well. I think I showed you the last time. So horticultural grit, it's just stone chippings. It's $4.50 for a 25 kg bag at the co-op, so it's cheap. So any containers, the first thing that I'd be thinking of with the containers is drainage, because it hasn't stopped raining. And if you put all your summer bedding stuff and it's a really miserable summer, you're going to lose it to poor drainage, because the compost likes to stay moist. This bag got a bit wet, and it's still wet, this compost. So the compost likes to retain moisture. So if you put something like your summer bedding in there and it's a really wet summer, it's just going to retain moisture. So mixing the grit in is a big help. I generally do about a fifth grit, 4/5 compost, and some of the slow release, and mix it all through. That's what I do for every customer. Maybe afterwards, if it's been in the pot a long time, you might be kind of thinking about next year, maybe you might give it a bit of a boost with some of the other feeds. So that's mainly the feeds. We've got our liquid tomato feed, we've got our all general purpose feed, and we have our granulated and our slow release 6 month feed. The other two things I just put on the end, probably going to get a lot of aphids very soon if you don't already have them in whitefly. That's sometimes down to the plants being really stressed. So they could be stressed because they're too wet, because the compost is too wet. They could be stressed from it being too dry and they need water. But generally you might just get it anyway. So something like the Bugard is pretty handy from Westland. There's other stuff as well. The more kind of, if you wanted to kind of go a little bit more organic, you just use washing up liquid, and just put some washing up liquid into a watering can, and they hate washing up liquid, and even a bit of chili powder or something like that.
With water.
Yeah, they absolutely hate it. If you think about it, they're tiny little sensitive kind of insects, so the washing up liquid and the chili powder is just, they won't go near anything. So like, but and you're thinking is this as well with the slugs, they're also quite sensitive little creatures as well, even though they're hateful little things when they eat our plants. And everyone is sick of them. Generally I don't really want to use the slug pellets, but if you did, I'd put a few down with my summer bedding to start it off with until they start getting going, and then afterwards maybe kind of leave them a little bit for their own devices. But it's mainly when they're starting off and they're small plants, they can just get wiped out in like a day. And a bit of a tip for this season is the slugs are definitely going to be worse. Yeah, so what happened in the winter was it was really mild and it was really wet. So the fact that it was mild didn't kill off the larvae. So there's going to be loads of them now. And the fact that it's been damp as well, they're loving life at the moment. So I think in 2023, sorry for the bad news, in 2023 we actually ran out of slug pellets and we had to wait for 8 weeks until we got slug pellets back in. So I've been told that that's probably going to happen again, which is why if you go up to the co-op, I got a little dumper bin of slug pellets. There's about 60, so I can try and keep them in stock. So a few ways to maybe avoid using slug pellets is always good. You'll see little slug traps up there. You'll see little the copper tape that you can put around your pots. You could also, if you have it, the main thing is if you have a freshly planted container, it's much easier to stop them getting in if it's freshly planted because they're not already living in there. So just a layer of Vaseline around the side. They don't like going over the Vaseline or the copper tape. Also, we have horticultural grit up there as well, which is like this sharper sand. It's much better than the play sand. It's better for drainage. You can use the horticultural grit for seedlings as drainage, or you could use it on your lawns for drainage. I have a feeling it's going to be a really, really good one as well. Say if you just bought, your lovely perennial or shrub or whatever, and you're like, oh no, I know this looks like this one, like hostas or something. If you got a few handfuls of horticultural grit and just put it down around the crown of the plant, at least they're going to struggle getting to the crown of the plant. If it's a dry day, they're not going to crawl over it because it's all going to get stuck to them and it's really sharp and unpleasant for them. And you could also get a saucer and have like beer traps. I'd imagine that's a reasonably pleasant way for them to die anyway. They get drunk and probably better than the other ways. They get drunk and they drown. So, but I'm told, I have never done it, but I'm told it's absolutely gross because there's so many of them. It's horrible. But preventing now is the way to go, because if you can do something now, then you're probably going to have less problems later on, because they're going to be like, okay, we can't eat anything here. They've wiped us out with beer and which is great, and the horticultural grit and even bark chippings or anything. So you're thinking anything dry, sharp, unpleasant odors like thyme and herbs they don't like. Even though I did get a customer in during the week saying that their thyme was completely wiped out by slugs, and I was like, well, what kind of super mutant slugs do they have? But if you think about it, if it's strongly scented for us, it's like 1,000,000 times strongly scented for them. So trying to prevent is a good way to go. Ideally, trying to not use chemicals is a good way to go. I must say these ones in particular, you probably remember the old Rose Clear, the blue one. You can't get it anymore, so all this newer stuff is kind of organic and it's not quite as strong, unfortunately.
And it's probably more expensive, is it?
It's probably roughly the same.
Yeah.
It's just,
It got very expensive, didn't it?
yeah, everything has gotten expensive. Absolutely everything has gone up. But the good thing is that they're trying to get rid of all the chemicals, so we get A4 lists of all the chemicals we can't sell anymore, and that's it. You'd have seen the ready-to-use Roundup in a bottle like this before. Can't get it anymore. And if you can get it, you'll notice a little sign on it that says no glyphosate, which means it isn't as strong as what it used to be. It's good that there's no glyphosate in it, and it's good that we have to try something different. But the negative thing that customers feel is that it doesn't work the same way as that it used to.
And then it doesn't cause cancer, it's Monsanto.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Huge payments on cancer from that stuff.
Yeah, massive.
Come on, don't use it.
There's stuff all the time and coming out about it, but if you can avoid it, you're better off, really.
But the dishwashing Liquid works really well, you say.
It does work. It does work for people. Some people feel maybe it doesn't, but like it's like everything else. It's you put it on. They don't like it, but you're going to have to keep reapplying it regularly, more so than the other stuff, because it's not going to last as long. But you can imagine if you're a small little aphid and you're really sensitive, and that liquid, that washing up liquid, you're not going to like it. And equally chili powder. So that's an easy kind of enough solution. And the slug pellets as well. Lots of them are organic now. I don't know, is this one? Lots of them are, organic. Lots of them are pet friendly and child friendly. Some people come in and go, oh, that's not the good stuff though, which is kind of funny. But and then one person did come in and said that the crows were eating them, and that they came back for seconds. So it's obviously not quite that strong, which was a bit worrying. So it's like everything now anyway. They're trying to get rid of most of that, which is a good thing, and we need to find other solutions. But the coming up with the other solutions isn't as easy as it seems, unfortunately. So that's most of you'll probably be using for the summer. Also the feeds in general are all kind of good to use between kind of April to September. So when you're using them, you're thinking about when it's cold and it's dormant, they're not going to use it as much. So there's not much point feeding as much. You're not going to get as much for your money if you're doing it in November or whatever. April kind of to September for the feeds. Same with a lot of the lawn stuff as well. It's some of it is better in colder temperatures. This Moss Master that works in colder temperatures, but generally you're feeding April to September. You had a question?
I have an azalea for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And I only get little small buds, they never open.
The flowers?
Yeah, they just come into a little bud and then they never open up.
Use potash. So potash is a much stronger version of the tomato feed. So you'll see in the tomato feed that they vary, but I think this one is 9.5% potassium, whereas potash is like 48%.
And would you like them hot flowers as well?
It'll be in one of these. Yeah. So just
How often do I have to do that feed?
try and do it before it flowers. So it says every 4 to 6 weeks kind of thing. So you're probably try it now anyway. It doesn't work instantly. It takes like 4 weeks or something to see signs. But certainly for next year, you know roughly when your azalea flowers. So give it 2 feeds before you think it's going to flower. It should encourage it to flower. Sometimes things don't flower as well because it's in the wrong location or it's stressed out. So say for instance a hydrangea, if the hydrangea is in deep enough shade, it won't really flower because that's not what it wants. Or sometimes if plants are really stressed out, they might be getting eaten alive by insects and vine weevil and everything, or they might be stressed out because there's drought. So check if it's stressed out in any way. Is it being eaten in for anything? Is it too wet or is it too dry?
I thought maybe I put into it. The pot is very big when I put into the pot. I thought
Yeah.
maybe the pot is too big for it.
And that's actually a good one as well, because it does seem like why wouldn't we just put this into a pot this
I
size?
thought you get big.
You'd think, well, what's the problem with that? It's got loads of space for itself. But some of the plants being in bigger pots, it absorbs like too much moisture. It's very hard to explain, but they just don't like being in oversized pots. They don't like it. It's to do with the moisture absorption, and it sounds mad, but you do have to size up. So if you did have a plant in this pot, then you go up by like a third in size. You don't go up by like 3 times in size. It's just not going to be happy. It's not like doing in the ground. Yep.
Sorry, I thought hydrangeas didn't like full sun. You're saying they don't like shade.
Well, they wouldn't particularly like full sun, but they don't like deep
Okay.
dark shade now, like really dark either. You'll notice some of them do get burnt in the sun, yeah. So a little bit of partial shade is perfect, and lots of moisture.
Joe, I'm surprised there's not a comfrey feed, because comfrey is supposed to have all the, and I soak it, you know, in water and then use the liquid.
It's
feed.
brilliant, yeah.
I don't know why people haven't made a comfrey feed.
There
But it's not
surely is somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not something I get in, actually. That's a good one.
Yeah, because it's excellent for comfrey. I used to soak it in water, and the leaves and keep the
Just
leaves.
a tip on that. Anything you do like that absolutely stinks.
Yes, it does.
It's really bad, like nettles, but it's brilliant.
It is nettles
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But it does smell like sewerage, though.
Yeah.
What about the chicken manure pellets? Are they good?
They're brilliant. There's bags up in the co-op as well. There's fast growth. They do 66 square meters. So if you want to do a hedge or something like that, it's great value for money as well. In that, there's just such an amount of different feeds, different types of stuff, different lawn feeds, granulated and liquid and everything. It feels like a mindful field sometimes. There's manure and there's farmyard manure and horse manure and everything. It's just, sometimes I can imagine as a customer, you're kind of going in looking at it, this whole shelf of all these things, like,
But you know
Boy.
that chicken feed now?
Yeah.
That got damp on in the bag.
yeah,
The smell.
yeah, that's a good tip. So garden centres should store it inside in the dry. I have brought one pallet into our garden centre, but we're a bit tight for space. And what happens with that is it's poo, so it's going to smell if it's really wet. If it's dry, it doesn't smell so much.
There's no good then if it gets wet.
And then if it gets wet, it literally clumps and it's like concrete. You have to like break it with a hammer. So if you see this stuff out in the winter, you're probably like, maybe I might wait for them to get a fresh pallet in next year, maybe.
So
Yeah.
There's no good then after that.
Well, you can use it, but it's like anything. It's like the compost. If it's out in the rain way too long, a lot of the nutrients are washed away.
Yeah.
It's not as good. But definitely use it. I mean, it'll be fine if you just throw it somewhere under a hedge or into your manure heap. It's definitely not worth just binning anyway. You'll get something out of it. And so I was talking about the container kind of mix, the feeds. I was also going to say, so location of your plants. So people generally come in and they say, I want this plant and I want that. My first question is, basically, where are you living? Like, are you living in Garrettstown or are you living in the inner Kinsale? Is it like really windy or shady? So we need to pick the right plants. So by picking the right plants, we need to know what kind of location you are in. So it's amazing, because even when I was up with Skolnevelton showing them stuff, the difference between growing something over by that window outside and growing it over there can be just massive. It could be absolutely ripped apart by the wind there, and you might have a little bit of shelter over there and it might be a little bit sunny, and it's completely different. And it's amazing the difference. Even it could be growing against the wall, you've got more sun, you've got more heat, it's south facing. So try and maybe think about that when you're going to the garden centre. And I'll give you a few top picks for perennials that I really like. So Nepeta catmint, I absolutely love that. If anyone's come across that, anyone come across that? Catmint. Oh, yeah, or Nepeta. So you'll start seeing it everywhere really soon. It's actually in the same family as mint, so it's scented. So it tends not to be eaten by anything, which is a massive bonus.
It grows tall, doesn't it?
It's only about this big. Lovely blue flowers, kind of greyish, silvery foliage. It's just one of them plants that you get it and it just works.
Okay, but I had one.
Yeah.
And the neighbour cat slept on it until it died.
Yeah, that was what I was going to come to next. Is they call it catmint or catnip. So some people do buy it just for their cat to roll in, because cats love it. If you don't like cats, don't get it, because you might attract a few cats. But some people found it beneficial that it was attracting cats, because if you have cats, you probably don't have rats. So some people like to get it for that reason as well. But even if you went to Killarney, you might see tree in a tub, and it's just flowers blue the entire summer. There's nothing to do with it. It likes being a little bit on the drier side, and it just flowers the entire summer. It's absolutely fantastic stuff.
It spreads a lot, does it?
Not particularly. So it would be one of the most popular ones in the garden centre, especially when it's flowering. It's just blue and it works. And at the end of the year, if you trimmed the twigs back, great. If you didn't, it'll come again. You might get a few losses. The other one is Campanula. Everyone probably knows about that. It's my favourite plant anyway. First of all, it's evergreen. And secondly, it literally flowers forever. So you'll get it flowering now, and you'll also get random bits of flowering in October. You walk past someone's house in November and see the odd flower off it. So it's one of them ones. It's funny because it flowers for so long. What happens is it'll flower now, it'll stop flowering for a while, and then it'll flower again, and it'll do that about 4 or 5 times in the year. So you'll be like, oh no, it's finished. No, it'll come back again. And it literally, if you get them small enough, we have small little plants as well up at the co-op. If you get them small enough, you can stick them in the wall and it'll grow out of the wall. It's just an amazing plant.
They like stone, don't they? Like
They do, yeah, lots of drainage.
The house on the pier had them hanging over the wall there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you put on the pier.
they're fantastic.
Is that purple?
Yeah,
Yes.
and you can actually get them in a kind of creamy whitish, which isn't as common, and a kind of pinkish kind of colour as well.
What's it called?
Campanula. So they'll actually should be ready for us. We have all the different colours at the moment. They should be ready on Thursday to be put out.
There's a tallish one as well, isn't there?
A different Campanula, yeah, more different perennial one that dies back and it grows up higher. And there's also a different Nepeta as well that's like a trailing summer, colourful trailing one. There's the geums as well. Anyone use the geums? So if you go up there now and you turn right and down the little slope, there's little orange ones. They're all flowering now. You get them in red and yellow, and they flower a little bit earlier than the rest of the stuff. And they're just one of the dependable plants that don't tend to just die a death on you normally. And Agapanthus, we probably all come across that. I really love that one because it just does really well in the wind and tough conditions. It doesn't need much watering. I think they were talking about in Gardener's World years ago that we're going to have to get ready for the climate change, and maybe we should have plants that don't need as much watering and care, and Agapanthus is one of them. Just a tip on the Agapanthus though, if you do put it in a pot, it loves being in pots, and it loves their roots to be restricted. If you put it in a nice ceramic pot or a terracotta one, it's just going to break it, because the roots expand and it likes their roots being restricted, because in the wild that's how it grows. So maybe put it in a plastic pot and then put it in your bigger terracotta or ceramic, so at least you know that you won't break your nice pot. Alstroemeria is another nice one, and it tends to be later flowering, and it spreads a bit and it's nice. And my last one for the kind of sun is Erigeron. If anyone's come across that, it's like a little daisy. It's really, really nice. It will grow to cracks and walls as well. It's really, really nice. I really like it. It's just one of them dependable plants. And a few for the shade is Brunnera, if anyone's come across that. There's a blue flower in it. It's generally kind of, the foliage is nice as well, and it's a silvery frosted foliage. Vinca, you may consider that a weed, but I really like it. It spreads and it's hanging. And the heucheras likes a bit of shade. Foxglove, anemone, pulmonaria, and astilbe. They're all really good for the shade, dependable plants. So the shade tends to be harder for us to pick plants. What we're doing now is we've got a bench and it says on an A4 sheet that these are all the shade-loving plants, so it makes it a little bit easier for people. Because sure, you go into a garden centre and you see, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of plants. What ones work for the shade? That's mostly the perennials, and then the bedding. I'm only going to really mention the shade-loving ones. So Mimulus, they like damp and they like shade. Busy Lizzies for shade, and Nemesia love shade as well. It's a little bit harder to find bedding for the shade, but you can certainly get it.
What about Ajuga?
Ajuga, yeah, that would be another good
Because
one.
I've got one we just stuck by our bids and it's happy.
Yeah, it's another happy one. You can get that in a really dark purple foliage. You can get it in a kind of a nice kind of creamy kind of foliage as well. It's got a tiny little purple blue flower. It spreads a little bit, but won't overtake anywhere. That's a nice one. And then some of the summer bedding. I just picked up some of these. So it's still a little bit early for summer bedding. I don't know, did anyone remember Brian Graham? We used to have a little...
She
Oh,
was
she is a
father,
Yeah.
Got the garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had a little garden centre up by what used to be the girls' school up by Compass Hill. My father worked up there. I don't know, I always think of him when I'm thinking of the summer bedding and it's in too early. So Brian Graham would have been very much a person that would say, you're not getting summer bedding until the second week of May. And that would be that. And he'd go down to the Actons, I don't know if anyone remembers Actons Hardware, and he'd give out to them that they had summer bedding too early. And since my father used to work with him, I'm worried that my father's going to come in now and look at the summer bedding and give out to me. But there's a good reason for it. So look, the garden centre has no option but to have summer bedding now, because every other garden centre has it. So if we don't have it, everyone's just going to be like, oh, you don't have it, we'll go somewhere else. So then, fair enough. So we have it. But what I like to try and explain is that the summer bedding, obviously they need a little bit higher temperature and a little bit more warmth. It is possible to lose the entire lot that you've set now if we got a frosty enough morning. So that's the reason for waiting until the second week of May. And it has happened. My father, I think, must be about 35 years ago or something, he was saying, he set the summer bedding in Kinsale and lost more or less most of it to the frost in the first week of May. So it is possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So I'd say if you're going getting your summer bedding, they'll kill me up at the co-op because I'm just telling you not to buy plants. But just wait off. So we're still in that slightly in between time where we've got our spring plants that will kind of flower up to June. So you'll probably go in and you'll be like, oh, you get excited, this is really colourful now, but it's not going to last the whole summer. And then you're looking at the summer bedding that you're going to get really excited now, and you're going to like, well, I'll definitely get this now, that's perfect, with this the frost. So it's kind of a funny kind of part of the season, the last couple of weeks of April, where everyone's really excited for the summer bedding, and you're coming in to get your container, because it's happened already, people bringing up their containers, can you plant that up? And then I tell them, you wouldn't mind waiting a couple of weeks maybe, would you? And they kind of look at me perplexed, and I say, well, you can get your spring bedding now and you get another couple of months out of it, or you can wait a couple of weeks if you don't mind and get the whole summer out of it. And some people will probably take the chance in the cold. So I just try to be kind of honest with it, really. I don't want anyone going home with plants that you think they're going to have a problem with, because they're expensive at the end of the day in gardening. Even though it seems relatively inexpensive, it is expensive. So these are just a selection of some stuff that we have now. That's all summer stuff. We'll have our big begonias next week. They'll be coming soon. We've been holding off because of the weather as long as we can. So we've got Bidens there. Lovely summer one, nice yellow stuff.
I asked you about those violets.
Yeah.
Mine came back 3 years in a row.
The Bidens?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so you'll notice with some of the summer stuff it'll come back. The Alyssum can come back. some of these begonias will come back. Some stuff will come back. So technically, some of them will be classed as perennials, but we use them as annuals. It's like the bigger begonias. Everyone uses them as annuals, but they can come back. But the thing is that mostly if the winter is really cold and wet, they're just gone. So there's a lot of work trying to keep them. I remember one time in particular, my father cleaned all of the window boxes along the pier, which there's about 100 of them. He took out all of the begonias, he cleaned off all the compost, he stored them in the shed in the council, and he lost pretty much all of them, even though he did the right thing. So that's why people don't use them as perennials. It's disappointing when you put all that time and you're storing them away for the winter and it takes hours of your
I
time.
don't mind them, you know, the hoppers, the old fashioned hoppers that work in the cottage.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
And I put them into that, and they come back to that whole chair and they're coming up missing. I think the shelf, the hopper went up that way.
Yeah, so what I do if I wanted to keep any of this stuff and I knew that I could keep it, in particular the begonias, is if you had them in containers, just kind of move them inside for the winter. I probably wouldn't go all the way to the trouble of cleaning them off. It's like dahlias and stuff. I just try and move them inside for the winter. If you have them in a container and it's convenient enough and it's not too heavy, just move them inside. If some comes back, great. It's a bonus is the way I look at it. So there's some Bidens there, which are the yellow ones. We've got our petunias, which are extremely popular, but people are getting fed up with them, I feel. So we've had a couple of bad summers in a row now. 2023 was the wettest summer since 1935. 2024 was the coldest summer since the 80s. Last year was actually quite good. And so far this year has been an utter disaster of a year. It's been absolutely miserable in the garden centre because it is quiet because there's no point going out when you're going to be working in the mud. So the petunias, I would be looking at them thinking, if I like them and they work for me, great, happy days. If you have no problems with them, brilliant. Deadhead them maybe twice a week, as much as you can, and give them the tomato feed. Plant them in good compost, in good containers, and don't plant them in too small a hanging basket. The bigger the hanging basket, the better, because it retains moisture better. It won't dry out as quick. So if you like the petunias, go with them. If not, go with the begonias, they're way easier. So the begonias will put up with a little bit more shade, they'll put up with a little bit more dampness. If you don't have that time to go out deadheading all the time, the flower heads do kind of fall off and they keep going. They don't look as miserable as the petunias if you forget to deadhead them. So the petunias, if you have no intention of deadheading, I wouldn't even consider the petunias because they will look absolutely miserable. There's the Million Bells as well in different colours, loads of different colours, yellows and purples and everything. They're great, they're a little bit like the petunias. The Bacopa, they come in different colours as well, they're great for trailing. I love them as well. And we ran out of the other geraniums, but there's a geranium there, it's actually a really colourful one, it's lovely. So the geraniums are always good as well, they're fairly reliable, but again, keep deadheading them because if you don't deadhead them, they all just end up, all the flowers die at the same time. You just got a load of dead flowers and it looks hard. So really the tip with the summer bedding is plant them in good compost with good drainage with the 6-month feed and try and feed them regularly and they would hopefully work out for you. And as well, when I mentioned about good compost, and I know I mentioned it the last time, is to use good quality compost.
What is the best?
So up in the co-op, it's the Jack Magic is what I would say is the best. There's also a peat-free option, which is John Irons, which is really good quality if you want to go peat-free. And there's also Organic Gold, which is a good organic one to go with if you want to go organic. So we've got organic, we've got peat-free, and Jack Magic is reduced peat. So all our composts that have peat in it, which is only actually 2, is the Gardeners, and the Jack Magic is its reduced peat. So I really like the Jack Magic. I think it's a good all rounder as well. It's got seaweed in it as well, which is that's a really good feed. It's not too strong, so since it's not too strong a feed, it tends to do seedlings as well. Although I would highly recommend the seed and cutting if you're going using seeds. So the reason I would recommend the seed and cutting over the Jack Magic for seeds is it's obviously specifically for seed and cutting, but the seed and cutting, how many people have lost seeds? Everyone? Yeah, it's painful at times. So just a bit of a tip with the seeds is use good quality compost, use the seed and cutting. It says on the bag, and I kind of believe it to be fair, it says you get 25% better germination rate from the seed and cutting. So the reason you don't use multi-purpose with the seed and cutting is there's a much stronger feed in it. It's for shrubs and mature plants. If that feed is in the compost and you're using it for seedlings, it's just going to knock them back.
Yeah.
So the Jack Magic is a good second best to the seed and cutting, but use the seed and cutting if you're that way. The Jack Magic anyway, the feed is really good in it. It's really fine. It's a good quality compost. The reason I would use that maybe as opposed to some, say, cheaper compost somewhere else, you get really cheap stuff, is has anyone bought really cheap compost?
I did, I suffered it.
And what was the problem with it?
I got these little white things, I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
These white little slugs that were coming out, it was the old vine weevil.
Vine weevil. And did you get that in the bag?
Yeah, they were inside the bag, and I opened the bag, I'd nothing there. I thought they were like little, I thought first they were little kind of shells.
Yeah. Oh, that's
It's
bad.
bad, yeah.
So yeah, that's another big problem. They're very hard to get rid of. But the cheaper compost tends to be a bit funny with the moisture retention. So you get really cheap compost, it's either going to be soaking wet more or less all the time, or it's going to be dry all the time. There's no amount of water seems to keep it moist. So you're going to be battling against it the whole summer, because you're going to water it and it's going to be absolutely laden down, or it's going to be just bone dry all the time. So the better quality compost tends to have better moisture retention, which means you'll have less work for the summer, really, if you're getting better quality compost. The feed is going to be better, and it's just generally a superior product. Now, what I might use the cheap compost for is I might use it for stuff in the ground. So if you're planting a couple of shrubs or something like that, you could use a couple of cheaper, because it's in with the soil anyway, it's going to help. But if you're planting anything that's just going to be solely in compost, like containers, I would go for the higher quality stuff, especially for containers. I wouldn't entertain the cheaper stuff at all. And even with the higher quality compost, I'd use the grit as well and the 6-month feed. That's just worked really well for me. It's what I do for all customers, is that 1/5 grit, 4/5 Jack Magic, or peat-free or organic, and the slow release feed. That's what I do every single time, and it seems to have really good results. I only use Jack Magic in my own garden at home as well. So that's the good compost. And so just a little bit of a tip on the containers is, I'm going to plant one up there.
And you're holding the end of that container now.
In this one, yeah. Yeah, so that's a really good tip, is need drainage holes. There's absolutely no point, if you don't have a drainage hole, with all the rain that's going to be there, you're just going to have a swamp, and it's going to be stinking and everything is going to die in it.
Do you put any gravel or cracked pots at the bottom?
I-
Or you put the compost in?
I just use
usually do,
I just use the grit.
but yeah, the grit.
The grit is enough, but it is definitely better if you use the few at the end, some old stones from the garden, or
Flower pots, the pottery, you know.
yeah, they always break, so it's a good way of using them. So yeah, that at the end, and some of the grit, and some slow release feed, and you're onto a winner. So how I do up the container, my kind of mad logic behind what I do every time, it's actually the same repetition I do all the time, is that I do my normal mix, I pick a plant that's a little bit taller in the middle. So if you put all this stuff in, looks great, but visually it's just all flat. And I think you need something a little bit taller in the middle, just gives you a little bit more. This is just some feed. So I just picked this one out of interest. It's called a Euryops. It's actually evergreen and it grows into kind of a shrub, but for a few years it'll be fine in the pot anyway.
That comes back every year, don't it?
It does, it's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got bigger ones as well up there, so I put something a little bit taller in the middle. I actually haven't thought this through, so I'm going to make it up now.
Can I ask you about a plant I like and I never see it anywhere?
Yeah.
Lily of the Valley.
Yeah.
I never see it in any garden centres.
That's an interesting one. I wonder why.
Bit of a thug.
Yeah.
It's not, it depends really, because
Yeah.
I had my house before,
Yeah.
and it was on, you know, there was a hedge between me and next door,
Mm.
right? And it grew up onto the hedge,
Yeah.
but it never spread anywhere else,
Oh.
it just stayed there.
Yeah.
I think the ground was poor there, you know,
Yeah.
so I kind of restricted it, but you never see it anywhere.
No.
It's a lovely little flower though.
Yeah, we're kind of caught with it being so small at work that variety is difficult. So one thing that I find difficult, I do the ordering and stuff at work for all the plants and everything, is the you need to get a minimum of each plant when you're ordering.
Yeah.
It could be 12, which doesn't sound like a lot, and so you're getting say 12 euro, or like there'd be bigger perennials, and a trolley is kind of normally a minimum order with 5 shelves, which would be about 30 to 40 plants in each shelf. So meeting the minimum order is difficult. Also, you probably noticed we don't have many trees.
Yeah.
Trees is very difficult. Trees don't sell very well in Kinsale for whatever reason, because I think people have smaller gardens. Most people don't have space for trees anymore, the property prices and everything.
And the sun's rushed. The sun's rare, and then someone sets a tree, then you know it's not.
Exactly, we've all had the experience of we set too big a tree in our backyard and it's absolutely misery for everyone to try and get rid of it. If you're living in most places in the States and places around Kinsale, Abbeyfort, the Manor or whatever, like fitting a tree in is going to be difficult. So I have a few fruit trees, apples and plums that are smaller trees. I try to get smaller trees, but the problem is you need to get like about 15 of the same tree in to meet the minimum order. And 15 of one tree is a lot, especially when you know they're not going to sell over the entire year, and then you've only got like 4 different types of trees, then, which is a bit disappointing. So, and then some things aren't very popular, so it sounds really funny, but I think Kinsale Hospital asked me for a standard holly, variegated standard holly. Doesn't sound very difficult to get. Yeah, no, it was difficult to get. So for the one that they wanted in their size, it's obviously a seasonal thing. There'll be more of them later on in the season. But as well, they wanted one big one, but you can't just order one big one. So you have to get a few, and then are you considering can I sell 6 of them if someone only wants one? Or if someone wants maybe, I don't know, one kind of slightly different shrub that's slightly different, and you have to get 12 of them just for one person. It can be difficult, but it's very hard to explain to someone when it's like, you know, all they want is like, you know, a 5-foot camellia, that it's very difficult to get. It sounds mad, but yeah, it can be difficult at times.
Another nice one is a winter hellebore. I have a hellebore and I don't do nothing to it, and it flowers beautifully. And a bit of rough ground it is,
They're brilliant. They work in the shade as well, which is great. But the only thing I found with that from the garden centre, and it's a garden centre problem, not an at-home problem, is they absolutely hate it in the garden centre.
Do they?
They hate it. Yep. They tend to just go mouldy. If you have them long enough, they just get covered in mould. They hate the fact that it's a bit too mild in the garden centre, so it's roofed, so it's like it's being in a polytunnel for too long, and it gets slightly overwatered, and then they go all mouldy. Yeah.
About 5 years, and all of a sudden I looked at all these lovely flowers on in the winter.
Yeah. And a good tip with them as well is they get messy over the year. The leaves die, they look messy. Just chop them and they'll come straight back up, and you tidy them straight up. Which is a good one.
Like in the winter time, there's not many things with a flower.
No, there's not really.
Sure, I get good value from a perennial, which you don't have in the co-op, little Sally.
Yeah.
And that's the platycodon, the balloon flower.
I can't think of that one now.
Yeah, I get some area, and it just is so flowers like.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Yes.
I was, and I think it lasted for 4 years.
Well, it's starting to come up now, it'll be another month, so.
I must have a look at that. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's got a flower that's like a bullet blue, and then it opens.
Actually, I've just got. Does anyone get trailing fuchsias?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm told we're probably not going to get them this year, so that's a funny one. People ask for them, but they're not terribly popular. Yeah, so the grower told me that he's not going doing them. I mean, I could get a small amount of them, but it's funny coming across these really these plants that people talk about all the time, and it's difficult to get them. Or oh, brilliant!
The last time you were here, Joe, did you say that you were going to get bigger premises, or did I imagine that?
I did.
You talked about moving to a bigger.
So over by Henry Goods there, by the field, there's a field on this side, and then if you go down that road, it's kind of like a cul-de-sac. I don't know. Do you remember the tire factory? The tire factory burnt down. The co-op owned all that.
Yeah.
So all that in the field, they're talking about a 2-story shop, a garden centre 4 times bigger and a bigger yard. But I think the thing they're going to have to consider, because it's gone a little bit quiet, is how much money that's going to cost. That's obviously going to cost millions. So they've done the Bandon branch up. If anyone's been to Bandon, it's quite nice, yeah. So we're next on the list of renovation. I'm sure if you walk through the shop, and it's a bit old now, where the tile, you get a few broken tiles on the ground. The shelving and stuff is actually obsolete. They don't make that shelving anymore. So hopefully we'll be next anyway. I would love the 4 times bigger garden centre anyway. So I just did that anyway. And what we might do is we might, if someone wants to, Ruth, would you pick someone out for a winner maybe?
Oh no, I wouldn't dare.
Yeah. Or is there a, what would be the fairest?
I don't know what to say.
Choose a number, like we did last time.
Out of
Oh,
So I've actually got 3 prizes.
say,
Throwing a number for there, what's the finance for how many?
1, 2, how many? Okay, we'll go nearly halfway. Say 18, 19, 19. Who's 19?
Number 19 is Mary O'Malley.
Right there.
And would we go for another one?
Okay, another number then.
You pick one, Winnie.
9, number 9.
Number 9. Francis G.
Francis Johnson.
Francis.
Zanetti. And another one?
Budget.
Brilliant. And another Zanetti there. So has anyone actually bought?
27.
Brilliant. Has anyone come across Zanettis before?
Is that what they are?
Yeah,
They're lovely. No,
they're lovely. I hate them.
Why did they hate them?
No, so my experience as a customer, probably the same if anyone else has gotten a Zanetti, is they're very tender,
Okay.
so they can get taken by the wind a bit. You go to Dunn's now and there'll be like a whole trolley of Zanettis. Greenfly love them. They're just one of them slightly tender things, so if you have maybe a nice sunny tender spot or a good container. The other thing with them as well is they do look beautiful, and they look beautiful for a very good reason. They're all going to flower at the same time, and what happens when they finish flowering? There's nothing. So the best thing to do in that situation is just give them a really hard chop, and just or to deadhead them as you go. They're one of them classic ones. I feel if you go to a garden centre and you're like blown away, especially when that's full of colour now, it's not quite ready yet.
Are they perennial?
They're supposed to be. So they're one of the classic ones. You go to the garden centre, they're full of flower, and you're like, oh wow, I'll definitely get that. And then about 2 weeks later, you're like, oh well, there's no flower in it. So that's kind of what I think about them. I personally choose a wallflower or something like that instead, because you know the wallflower is going to come back next year. It's scented. It's just as colourful. But that's Zanetti's. We very nicely got a couple free from our supplier, so I said I'd bring down a couple of free ones. And I forgot to bring down the Westland newspapers. So if anyone is in the co-op, Westland accidentally gave us 6 bales of Westland newspapers, which is very, very kind of them. But if I remember rightly last year, I think they gave us 3 bales, and I threw 1.5 of them in the skip. So we've got twice as many this year. So I don't really, like, someone's gone to great lengths to make the newspapers, and you know, you don't want to throw them away. It's not good for the environment. So if anyone wants loads of Westland newspapers, if anyone's going anywhere doing anything, maybe there's another club. There's bales of them up there that I'm looking to get rid of. Yeah. They're literally, there's about this big a bale, like, so there's a lot there. They're free to take anyway, so take them away. Yeah. Anyone else got any questions or anything?
Can I ask you about, wasn't there a plant? I've had kind of my mind, I can't remember what. They called the butterfly plant, because if you had it, butterflies would come.
Buddleia. They're really, really.
That's almost a tree, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they can grow quite big. You can get smaller ones as well. The thing with Buddleias is that the more common one, you could literally dig out somewhere. They'll grow anywhere. You'll see them when in Cork City growing out of the cracks of chimneys. They're such hardy plants. But in the garden centre, we obviously have, you know, less not ones that would spread as quite more cultivated. We have different coloured ones, reds and stuff that you don't normally see. It's normally that classic blue one. They're over in Silly Walk. There's loads of them there. But if you wanted to just take a cutting of them from over there or dig one out somewhere, they're brilliant. But they're brilliant. They put up with so much horrible weather. What the best way to do with them is, because they get really big, is in around February or March, you just chop them down to the ground and leave them come up again. Otherwise, if you just don't cut them, they end up being like a tree. They grow mad. That's the more uncultivated ones though.
I really know the butterflies, the kind of butterflies.
Yeah.
I really know that. I've got a kind of daisy at the ground thing. I never remember the name of that.
Yeah.
And I remember one time taking a picture, there was 20 butterflies at us, and in the last 2 years, hardly any butterflies.
It's something that I mentioned to a customer yesterday, is that I did garden maintenance for 15 years in Kinsale. The difference between when I started and when I finished, the amount of bees and butterflies that I noticed not by any count or research or anything, but just obvious to see there's less of them. And I definitely recall a lot more cutting the grass in the end. You know, you're there cutting the grass and he's in front of the lawnmower and you're kind of like, go on, keep going. But they're gone fierce slow as well. Someone was telling me, I think out in Eli Lilly, there's some research gone into them, that the Roundup and all the poisons don't necessarily kill them outright. It affects them a chemical in their brain, and they're just basically just go very, very slow. They don't function the same, and then they just die. But it's a good reason why we probably should have more daisies and dandelions in our lawns. I know we talk about doing the no-mow thing in May. There's part of me that loves it and part of me that hates it. The part of me that loves it is obviously, all the wildlife and stuff. The part of me that absolutely hated it was when I did garden maintenance and not cutting the lawn in May. If people wanted the lawn back and having it looking, it's very hard to get it back. So we should probably try and get away from the idea that we're having these immaculate lawns, is probably what I'm talking about. So if you do want that immaculate lawn, the no-mow thing is just not going to work for you.
We have to talk to the men in our lives.
Yeah. So it's the no-mow thing is only going to work if you don't want an immaculate lawn, and the longer you don't cut it, the more flowers you're going to have, the more different types you're going to have in it, and the more they're going to take off. But if you want your immaculate lawn, then look elsewhere.
For me, we've got a bit of a lawn,
Yeah.
and at the moment there's loads of moss on it. And my wife suggested, I've got to go to the co-op and get some to kill moss. I personally, I don't see nothing wrong with the moss.
Yeah. And the reason why we have a lot of the moss is because the moss thrives in the dampness. We've had a really damp winter. There's slight acidity in the rain, which actually the moss loves. So the more it rains, the more it encourages the moss. The fact that it's damp and the acidity, if you're looking for products to get rid of it, the Lawn Gold is a really good one, or the Moss Master are really good ones. Yeah. But I had a lawn maintenance talk recently, and yeah, everyone is sick of the moss in the lawn. So ideally what you would do is you would put on the feed about 4 days after cutting, or 4 days before, or more than 4 days before. You'd wait your 4 weeks, you'd scarify it, and then you'd overseed with new lawn seed, which is lots of work. And if anyone has used a scarifier before, what I always say, it's a horrible machine that you never want to use again in your life. Has anyone ever used one? Good. Yeah, well, in bigger lawns you need the machine, and the thing with the machine is it's really strong vibrations, because it's basically digging that much of the soil out, because you need soil contact. And because of the vibrations, it just makes your hands numb after about 15 minutes. It's not very good for you, so you're supposed to take a break every 15 to 20 minutes, because it's kind of like the same idea as a jackhammer. The constant same vibration can throw out your heartbeat. So it's a kind of a reasonably serious enough machine. I've done 8-hour days of it, which was misery. Yeah. So use padded gloves and take breaks. So.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.